Welcome, I am the Kaiju no Kami, and tonight Halloween month continues as we take a look at Frankenstein Conquers the World. Or also known as Frankenstein vs. Baragon. Frankenstein versus the subterranean monster, Baragon. Well, whatever you want to call it. Here is a look at Frankenstein vs. Baragon. Long before the movie industry existed, a woman named Mary Shelley went against the norm and wrote a horror story about a crazed doctor who grants life to an abomination. Thus, Frankenstein was born. This novel has gone through many adaptations from Universal's classic starring Boris Karloff, which kind of set the standard to the design of Frankenstein's monster despite his rendition being far off to Shelley's description, to Hammer's take on the source material, a mess of a film that was supposed to be a more accurate adaptation from Kenneth Branagh during the 90s, and a more recent version where they turned the monster into an action hero. Nevertheless, when you hear the name Frankenstein, you always think of the monster, not the doctor. Anyway, Toho had originally planned to pit their own version of Shelley's Prometheus against King Kong before deciding to replace the monster with Godzilla. Other ideas would soon be tossed around in Toho's playpen, such as pitting the monster against Godzilla, having it battle with the human vapor, until ultimately it was decided to create a movie starring the monster and an entirely new creature known as Baragon. Is Frankenstein vs. Baragon as lively as Frankenstein's heart, or should it have stopped beating years ago? Let's take a look at this macabre tale and find out. Our movie begins with the Nazis transporting a precious treasure to the Japanese towards the end of World War II, which is revealed to be the heart of Frankenstein. Well, technically the monster's heart, I guess. From my understanding though, because the monster has lived on for so many decades at this point, he has pretty much just taken the name Frankenstein since Victor von Frankenstein is dead. I guess that kind of makes sense.
フランケンシュタインの心臓だ。
何か重要な研究に役立つんですか？
たまに撃たれても絶対に死なない兵隊を作るためにな。
Moving forward, the atomic bombs are dropped, decimating the laboratory and presumably the heart with it. We jump 15 years where we are introduced to our main trio, Dr. James Bowen, played by the amazing Nick Adams, and his colleagues Yuzo Kawaji and Sueko Tajima, respectively portrayed by Tadao Takashima and Kumi Mizuno. They are trying to study and cure the effects of radiation poisoning without success.
全く残念なことです。我々の研究まだまだ彼女を助けることができません。
In the meantime, strange incidents are occurring around the city as animals are being found slaughtered, which is believed to be caused by a boy that ran past Sueko one night.
犬を叩き殺して死骸を持っていくんです。食べるらしいんですよ。フローチでしょうか?
Oh, waifu. You know what? I'm not gonna go there. Let's just move on. The boy ends up being hit by a car outside of her apartment.
Whoa! Dude, that's creepy.
Oh, seriously? I just got hit by a car! Well, free food is still free food.
And of course he takes the food and runs. Man, Japan is weird. I mean, here if you get hit by a car, you sue the person who hit you. You don't just get food and you're all better. Huh. A year passes and Bo and Sueko find the young boy once more. They take him to their lab for study when he begins to grow large to the point that they have to lock him into a prison.
あんまり大きくなるんで、こんなところ入れられてるんですよ。赤ん坊時代のようにどんどん成長するんです。
どうしてです？
わかりません。
Oh, and at the same time, an earthquake engulfs an oil refinery. Back to the plot, Kawaji visits Dr. Riesendorf, the scientist the Nazis took the heart from, who gives him some disturbing news.
何度も死に、そしてその度に生き返ったと言われている。
Ooh, that's bad.
一度も死んでいない。
That's good.
その男の手か足を試しに切り落としてみるんだね。もしも奴がフランケンシュタインならば、新しい手足が生えてくる。
That's bad.
Can I go now?
Sueko is of course against this idea, so Kawaji tries to perform the action alone, only to be interrupted by a production team from a television studio.
お宅の事務長からね、撮影の許可もらってんですよ。
This is not going to end well for them. Have they never seen King Kong?
Shit.
The chains that had bound him are found in perfect condition, as is a lone hand that seems to be moving on its own.
先生、やっぱりフランケンシュタインです。
Bringing an end to the origin story of the Addams Family butler Thing. Seriously though, the doctors revive the hand, only to soon learn the bigger it gets, the more nutrients it requires to stay alive.
死んでます。しかし随分大きくなってますよ。重大な失敗だったね。大きくなればそれだけタンパク質が必要だ。
While all this occurs, Frankenstein is occasionally seen while no one seems to notice a giant horned creature burrowing through the ground, causing wanton acts of destruction across Japan's countryside.
I'll bet I get blamed for this.
He's basically the Showa equivalent of Obama. Those are some boorish looking effects. Thank you, I'm here every day. In time, the trio learn about the subterranean monster, but are unable to do anything about it until the creature finally shows itself to them. Sueko trips.
Of course!
Frankenstein rescues her before having to also save Kawaii. Typical men, always having to be rescued in these movies. Baragon reemerges sometime later, only to be confronted once more by the Titanic Deadite and a battle ensues. The forest is accidentally set aflame as we watch the two battle it out in a blaze of glory. All seems fine until the ground suddenly collapses on him as the earth devours the unnatural creature to restore natural balance to Mother Nature. Baragon reemerges sometime later, only to be confronted once more by the Titanic Deadite and a battle ensues. The forest is accidentally set aflame as we watch the two battle it out in a blaze of glory. All seems fine until a strange octopus rises out of the sea. Okay. Why is there an octopus coming out of the sea? Is he supposed to be teaching him what hentai is? This just seems so random. Frankenstein leaps at the creature only to be dragged down into the watery depths of emptiness. Are you confused? Because I know I'm confused. This ending just feels like it was tacked on at the last minute. Oh, that's because it was. See, for those not in the know, Henry Saperstein was bringing the movie out to America, and he wanted more oomph to the ending. He wanted to see the octopus creature from King Kong vs. Godzilla brought back because I guess he liked that creature, so Toho did. Well, of course, Saperstein himself saw how tacked on the ending was, because it was, and decided to go with the original ending of the Earth following Frankenstein, thus ultimately wasting Toho's time and money. Therefore, Toho decided to just show both versions of the movie and have released both versions ever since. Overall, it is a pretty good movie, albeit an extremely flawed one. There is a subplot that occurs in the last bit of the movie that really slows down its pacing. It deals with one of the soldiers from the beginning of the movie who was also working at the oil refinery Baragon attacked, played by the recently deceased, the amazing Yoshio Tsuchiya. Rest in peace, man. He is the one that informs Bowen and gang of Baragon, kicking off an adventure where he tries to get various media outlets to listen to his story in order to clear Frankenstein's name. It fails, and he leaves, making the entire process completely irrelevant to the overall plot. I am unsure as to why Honda didn't remove this from the final film, but I feel like it takes away from the entertainment value immensely. That aside, this movie is quite enjoyable as our trio of characters are people you want to succeed. Nick Adams does a spectacular job as Bowen, and you really get to see his drive to wanting to help those who have been affected by the atomic bombs. Unfortunately, Sueko is pretty much resolved to being your typical female character who befriends a monster and then needs to be rescued by it at some point. On the other hand, Kawaii ends up being the most compelling character because you really get to see him slowly change his persona as events develop. He goes from demanding Frankenstein be returned unharmed into a man who wants to destroy the creature himself, which seems atypical for your normal scientist, and yet it works extremely well. He goes against the norms you would expect to find here. Speaking of going against the norms, it is interesting to see a plot that involves the basic concepts surrounding Frankenstein while also trying to do something new and interesting with the character. I love the idea that Victor's monster turned out to be indestructible, though they kept his heart in a storage container to try and stop him, only for the monster to be right in the center of the atomic bombs in 1945. It's another brilliant take on the horrors the event caused in Japan, while adding a Western flavor into the mix. Additionally, because they went with the guy wearing makeup over a man in a suit, we got to see a lot more emotions from the creature compared to what we are used to. Tsuburaya especially enjoyed this, as Frankenstein was not as tall as other monsters, so he was able to create bigger than normal miniatures, including a 1/12 scale cruise ship. On the downside, some of the effects work leaves a little to be desired. There's a scene where Baragon attacks a farm and the horse puppet looks awful. Tsuburaya was apparently asked why he didn't superimpose a real horse, and he said because it was more fun to use a puppet. Well, I get where he is coming from. The effect isn't all that effective in its execution, as it clearly looks fake. I do like Baragon, especially in the design department, although I'm not sure why they felt the need to have him shoot fire out of his mouth. It seemed rather pointless and ineffective. He is still an interesting monster due to his ability to crawl underground. I just wish there was more to him than that. He seemed a bit tacked on, as if the production team was told to add in an opposing monster at the last minute, despite that not being the case. To be fair though, it could just be due to the failed subplot I mentioned a few moments ago. The fight at the end is pretty cool against the burning forest, despite the outdated blue screen effect. Alternatively, the giant octopus looks gruesome, and not in a positive way. It just looks so cheap looking and really makes one wonder what Henry Saperstein was thinking when he demanded it to be added to the film. It's also apparent he had no idea either, considering he didn't even use it in the English release. A Fugabe score is great, although I feel like most of the score is just recycled from his other works. I'm not sure if there was a new piece to it or not, or perhaps I am reversed in my thinking and that there were new tracks that were used in later movies, so watching this now makes them sound as if they are older tracks. Sometimes it's hard to keep track. Either way, his score fits the scenes perfectly. It may not be a perfect film, nor Honda's best work, but it is still a damn good movie. This is one that any kaiju fan should definitely check out, and those who are interested in the Frankenstein monster. It's an interesting story with likable characters, and is just overall fun and enjoyable. I can't get enough of how good this one is, despite its flaws. With that said, Halloween month shall continue next time as we take a look at Kamen Rider Black. Until then, bye.
I've always wanted to say that.